Tonight on Reporting Scotland, families lobby MSPs about what they call cruel care home visiting arrangements.
Completely frustrated, and sometimes I have my moments, put it that way.
Good evening. This pandemic has already taken a heavy toll on care homes, but families separated from loved ones to keep them safe believe the ongoing restrictions on visiting are still causing great harm. A group of campaigners want to be given training in infection control and PPE just so they can have greater access to family members. The Scottish Government says the arrangements are under constant review. David Cowan has this report.
Next week, it will be 6 months since Scotland went into lockdown, and it feels like an eternity for the people who gathered outside the Scottish Parliament. Visits to care homes are still tightly controlled, with most restricted to brief spells outdoors. Everyone there today had a similar story to tell.
My mum is 104 years old today. We aren't afforded the right to attend her celebration.
It's the government rules. It's not allowing us to give our loved ones a wee bit of comfort and love.
I work in health and social care. I understand the need to protect people, but it's not enough to just simply exist. My mum needs a bit of a life of what she's got left.
Short indoor visits can happen if health officials grant permission, but the picture varies across the country, depending on access to testing for staff, local lockdowns and the COVID status of the home. One of the campaigners is a 95-year-old mother in a home in East Dunbartonshire. Having so few visits is taking its toll.
Completely frustrated, and sometimes I have my moments, put it that way. You get depressed, you can't help it.
The Scottish Government says it recognises that the measures it's put in place to protect care home residents are harming those residents and their relatives in terms of restricting family contact. It says it's constantly looking at ways to normalise the situation.
We're actively working on how we can support people to be with their loved ones in as safe a way as possible, recognising the unique and distinctive nature of living within a care home.
The private care sector is involved in talks with government officials.
So we're looking at things like, with PPE, can we allow people to be closer? Can we allow physical touch? Can we extend the amount of time available and still keep the environment clean and safe?
I do miss, well, people I can talk to.
Yes.
With no end to the pandemic in sight and no easy answers, a radical solution might have to be found.
I miss you most of all.
Oh, thank you.
David Cowan, Reporting Scotland.
Well, Cathy Russell, who organised today's protest and whose mother lives in a care home, joins me now. Cathy, thanks very much for talking to us tonight. Can you start by just telling us what visits with your mum have been like recently?
Well, it's just very difficult, I think, visiting an elderly person. I mean, they've not seen us at all, really, for 6 months, for 4 or 5 months. And then when you do get in, it's 30-minute visits. You're really sitting quite a long way back. The care home do their best to make it as pleasant as it can be, but you can imagine in our group we have married couples, and they're sitting 3-4 metres apart. It's very, very difficult. People can't hear, they can't see. My own mum always puts out her arms to hug me, but of course I have to say, no mum, I can't hug you. She wants me to have a cup of tea, but of course I can't have a cup of tea. So it's really not a normal way to be with an older person.
And how do you feel she's doing then?
Well, my mum's care home is very good, and they've worked hard, and we've made use of Skype and everything that we can to try and keep something going. But the biggest change I see in my mum is cognitive, because she hasn't had a conversation with anyone for 6 months who has all the memories and the shared people. So she has just really gone into a wee world of her own, really. But she's been pretty good. But we're hearing in the group all sorts of really difficult stories of where people have gone downhill a great deal.
So what would make it better then for families like yourself?
Well, I think that they need at least one person who can get physically closer to their loved one, particularly husbands and wives. And where people have had a caregiver who was their main carer at home, we're hoping that we could come to some arrangement whereby people like that could have testing and PPE and could become really like a key worker in the home and spend more time there safely.
OK, Cathy.
That would be one of the options.
Cathy, thank you so much for speaking to us tonight. We wish you and your mum very well. Thank you.